Protein bars are everywhere, in gyms, schools, offices, and supermarkets. But few people know the real story, a story that begins in labs, twists through decades of marketing, and hides a truth the food industry doesn't want you to see. Now, I'll reveal the dark history behind protein bars. Born in the lab. The modern protein bar did not begin in a home kitchen, it began in a laboratory. During the second half of the 20th century, food technology was advancing rapidly. Scientists had developed new ways of concentrating protein to combine it with binders and sweeteners and created something compact, portable, and long-lasting. The earliest bars were simple in design, dense blocks that delivered measurable amounts of protein in an easy-to-carry format. They weren't designed with flavor or texture as the main priority, but instead built to solve a problem of convenience: how to pack nutrition into a form which would survive long storage, travel well, and provide quick fuel without the need for cooking. These early bars found their first audience in niche groups like athletes, soldiers, and bodybuilders, and for people with demanding routines, a product that could stay stable for months and supply consistent protein was appealing. The taste and chewiness were often compared to meal replacements and medical rations, but for this audience, efficiency mattered more than indulgence. The laboratory origin would shape the direction of protein bars for decades. They were never created as whole food snacks in the traditional sense. They were engineered to meet a goal: portability and numbers on a label. Once that idea took hold, the industry began to evolve. New versions would emerge, adapting to diet trends and changing consumer demands, but the foundation remained the same: nutrition stripped down, rebuilt, and sold as a shortcut to health. But if the idea of hidden sugars, mystery proteins, and candy-flavored marketing makes you uneasy, well, you're not alone. The good news is that not all protein bars follow those rules. Instead of sugar, sugar alcohols, or artificial sweeteners, MunkPack offers a range of better options, including bars made with allulose, a so-called rare sugar that's naturally occurring in figs and raisins and doesn't raise blood glucose. Simple ingredients you can actually recognize, with some featuring a complete protein blend, plus prebiotic fiber and probiotics for real digestive support. It's a premium bar that finally delivers on the promise of health. Click the first link in the description and see what a truly clean protein bar can be. They began as experiments in food science, but that was just the foundation. What came next will shock you: the health halo. As protein bars moved beyond labs and small markets, they entered a new phase: marketing. By the late 1980s and 90s, packaging, slogans, and advertising transformed them from functional fuel to lifestyle products. The key strategy was creation of a health halo, bars that were presented as quick and balanced and essential to a modern busy life. This shift coincided with the rise of diet culture. Low-fat products filled grocery aisles, and the promise of a convenient snack that seemed both indulgent and healthy would be irresistible. Many bars were sweetened heavily or built with syrups, yet advertised as weight loss friendly and energy boosting. They often contained as many calories as a candy bar, but with added protein, they could be framed as a smarter choice. The language became deliberate. Words like fuel, energy, balanced, meal replacement, and smart snacking would appear on the wrapper, shaping how consumers saw the product. A bar that looked like chocolate could now be sold as fitness-friendly. The advertising did not always highlight the full ingredient list. It emphasized protein numbers or 1 to 2 carefully chosen buzzwords. This marketing would create an illusion. Consumers believed they were eating something inherently good, when in reality, the quality varied wildly from brand to brand. The wrapper became more important than the recipe. Bars that shared almost identical formulas to sweets could now sit on shelves beside diet shakes and vitamins and still be seen as part of a healthy movement. The health halo worked. Protein bars became symbols of self-discipline, convenience, and progress, and they fit neatly into lunchboxes, office drawers, and gym bags. They weren't niche anymore. They had now become mainstream. And while the perception was one of health, the foundation was still the same: engineered food presented as the modern alternative to real meals. The illusion worked, but something was still missing. To win over the masses, bars needed a secret ingredient, one that wouldn't come from nature, but from chemistry. The additive era. As protein bars gained popularity in the 90s and 2000s, companies faced a new challenge: how to make them taste better, last longer, and appeal to a mass audience? The answer wasn't found in farms and kitchens, but in food science. This period marked the rise of what's called the additive era. Bars were no longer compact blocks of protein. To compete with candy bars in taste and texture, manufacturers leaned on a growing toolbox of stabilizers, binders, and flavor enhancers. Emulsifiers and syrups gave products a soft chew and satisfying crunch, while artificial flavors would mask the chalkiness of protein powder, creating the illusion of indulgence. Preservatives kept bars shelf-stable for months, sometimes years, ensuring they would sit in warehouses and convenience stores without losing form. For the consumer, the result was appealing. A bar could be sweet, chewy, and enjoyable while carrying the label of health. But behind the wrapper was a product increasingly engineered through chemistry. The ingredient lists would grow longer, full of names few shoppers would recognize. The promise of nutrition was front and center, but supported by a foundation of additives that made the product possible at scale. This transformation was not unusual for the industry at the time. Many convenience products would go through the same evolution, balancing profitability with taste and storage needs. In the case of protein bars, it further distanced them from their original idea of compact nutrition. They became hybrids, part supplement, part confectionery, designed to survive supply chains and consumer cravings more than provide balanced nourishment. The additive era cemented a pattern that's still visible today. Protein bars became less about whole foods and more about what food technology could build. They were shaped as much by chemistry as nutrition, a trend that would define how the industry moved into the 21st century. Additives gave bars their texture and shelf life, but survival on store shelves was not the ultimate goal. To truly dominate, they had to become more than food. They had to become part of everyday life, and here's how they did it. The lifestyle illusion. By the early 2000s, protein bars were everywhere. Checkout counters, office kitchens, gym bags, and school lunchboxes. What began as a niche product had become part of daily life. The transformation was fueled by marketing, but also a cultural shift, because people wanted fast and portable options that felt more healthy than candy. Protein bars would fit perfectly into that demand. The messaging became clear. Bars were framed as meal replacements, smart fuel, and balanced indulgences. Packaging and advertising would suggest keeping a bar in your bag was a sign of discipline, efficiency, and self-care. Fitness personalities and celebrities reinforced that idea, holding the bars as symbols of performance and wellness. But the reality did not always match the image. Many of the bars still carried long ingredient lists, sugar-heavy formulas, and additives chosen more for shelf life than for nourishment. The lifestyle illusion would convince people that grabbing a bar was always the healthy choice, even when the nutrition panel told a different story. And over time, something began to change. As research into nutrition and the microbiome would expand, consumers became more label-conscious, demanding shift. People began looking past flashy claims to the ingredients themselves, wanting lower glycemic sweeteners, more plant-based proteins, and fibers that worked with digestion rather than against it. The growing awareness would mark a turning point. The lifestyle illusion had carried protein bars into the mainstream, but also created the space for new formulations to emerge, ones that aimed to truly deliver on the promises that early bars would only suggest. The image was polished, the marketing flawless, but beneath the wrapper was a different story, one that careful eyes were finally beginning to uncover. Cracks in the illusion. As the 2010s unfolded, the lifestyle image that carried protein bars for decades began to weaken. Shoppers were no longer satisfied with bold labels and glossy marketing. They began reading the fine print, the ingredient lists, the sugar content, the source of protein, and what they found did not always match the promise on front of the wrapper. The shift would be fueled by a broader movement in food culture. Documentaries, blogs, and health research encouraged people to look beyond calories and protein numbers to the quality of what they were eating. Consumers began asking sharper questions, like what kind of sweeteners are in it? Where does the protein come from? How much of the fiber is real and how much is added for numbers? The scrutiny would expose weaknesses in many mainstream products. Bars that had once been trusted as diet-friendly and performance-driven now looked close to candy. And with awareness of gut health, blood sugar balance, and clean label eating on the rise, the old formulas no longer seemed good enough. But this wasn't the end of protein bars. It was the beginning of something new. A growing number of brands began reformulating, focusing on plant-based proteins, natural fibers, and alternative sweeteners with low impact on blood sugar. Instead of chasing shelf life and mass production alone, the focus began to shift toward transparency efficiency and ingredient integrity. The cracks in the illusion would give way to innovation, and for the first time since invention, protein bars were being reshaped not only by labs and marketing departments, but by consumer demand for food, which actually lived up to its promises. The dark history had forced the industry to evolve and set the stage for a new generation of bars, which would finally align convenience with real nutrition. The cracks in the illusion were only the beginning. What came next wasn't just consumer doubt, it was the science itself, rewriting the very meaning of health. Redefining healthy. For decades, the idea of a healthy protein bar would be built on surface-level numbers like grams of protein, calories, and fat content. If the label looked good, the bar was assumed to be good. But in recent years, that definition has shifted dramatically. Health is no longer judged by a single number on the front of the wrapper. It's about how food interacts with the body, how it affects energy, digestion, and even long-term well-being. This shift redefined what people expected from a protein bar. One that once looked impressive because it was packed in protein no longer measured up if it caused sugar crashes, stomach discomfort, and offered little beyond its headline nutrient. The rise of research into the gut microbiome added a brand new dimension. Scientists showed that true nutrition wasn't only about macronutrients, but also about the balance of bacteria that live in the gut. Fiber quality, sweetener choice, and even the type of protein began to matter in ways the old formulas had never considered. A protein bar could no longer hide behind its numbers. It had to prove it could support health on multiple levels. This redefinition also aligned with more broad cultural change. People embraced plant-based eating, cleaner labels, and sustainable sourcing, and healthy came to mean food that worked with the body and not against it. As expectations rose, the industry had no choice but to adapt or risk being left behind. Redefining health would reshape the entire category, creating space for bars that weren't only convenient, but genuinely aligned with modern nutrition science and consumer values. The history of shortcuts and illusions gave way to something different, a standard for what it meant to make a bar that truly deserved the healthy label. The dark history shaped the past, but the next chapter is already here and could finally deliver a bar that we were promised all along. The future of protein bars. The history of protein bars is marked with contradiction. Born in labs, promoted as a shortcut, reshaped by marketing and engineered with additives, they became symbols of health even when they didn't always deliver on the promise. For decades, convenience overshadowed nutrition. The wrapper mattered more than the recipe. But today, the story is changing, and the future looks different from the past. Modern nutrition is defined by more than numbers. People are asking deeper questions. Does the bar keep my energy steady? Does it trigger a crash? Does it support digestion? Will it leave me uncomfortable? Are the ingredients simple and trustworthy, or engineered for shelf life alone? They have transformed how protein bars are made, and the brands that thrive today are the ones that can answer them with confidence. One of the most significant shifts has been the move toward plant-based proteins. Once considered niche, they're now central to the market. Not only do they offer sustainable alternatives to animal-based proteins, but also pair naturally with ingredients like nuts, seeds, and oats, whole foods that bring more than just protein. They add fiber, healthy fats, and micronutrients that work with the body instead of against it. Transparency has become the new baseline. Long ingredient lists full of confusing additives no longer inspire confidence, and instead consumers look for shorter, more clear recipes, bars that are built on recognizable components rather than laboratory jargon. In this new landscape, simplicity sells and authenticity matters. But perhaps the most important change is philosophical. The best protein bars of today and tomorrow are not only chasing numbers, they're built on the idea that a snack can be convenient and genuinely healthy and supportive at the same time. They don't have to choose between flavor and function or between shelf life and integrity. They do both if the right ingredients and priorities guide the process. And for the everyday person, that's the real victory. It means grabbing a bar doesn't have to feel like a compromise. The convenience of the wrapper can coexist with the confidence that what's inside is built with care. It means that the next chapter in the story of protein bars may not be about illusion at all, but about innovation that truly supports health. I hope this video has helped you and will improve your health choices. At MunkPack, the mission is simple: protein and gut health combined with low sugar to prove that you don't need hidden sugars and fake ingredients to enjoy something delicious that meets your nutritional goals. If you want to try for yourself, click that first link in the description and discover what smarter choices really taste like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.